Last year, I decided to therapy max because I'm a straight A student, and I even got an A+ in my diagnosis. But first, let me share some vibe checks that my therapist had for me. It's not a question of whether you have ADHD, you do have ADHD. You've taught people it's okay to infringe on your time because what they want to do is more important than what you want to do. Okay, this really vibe checks my people-pleasing side. Are you willing to sacrifice your goals and life for others' perceptions of you? This is again about my people-pleasing side. You're creating a dependency on you. You need to be needed. Yeah, and I also got vibe checked because I kept asking my therapist for actionable tips, and she was like, I'm your therapist, I'm not a business coach. And that perfectly segues into today's sponsor, which is Mentor Cruise. So if you decide that you do need a business coach instead of a therapist, because you don't want your therapist to roast you like mine did, you can check out Mentor Cruise, and there are so many mentors from big companies like Microsoft. They can help you with your career. It literally saves you so much time because as an ADHD girly, I'm a yapper. I tend to perform best when I'm feeling the energy in a meeting with somebody else who is able to provide me that engagement and customized answers to my questions. So a mentorship platform like Mentor Cruise was actually very helpful for me because I need to be engaged. I need to talk to people, like real people who will give me personalized advice to my situation and connect me to other opportunities. I actually signed up as a mentor on Mentor Cruise last year, and I literally sent every job opportunity that reminded me of my mentees to them. You can check out the mentors' profiles and message them to see if it's a good fit before fully committing. So I'll leave the link in the description below so you can check out the platform. That's the end of the commercial break. Now, back to how I'm maximizing my therapy money. First thing I did was make an agenda of all of my trauma. Spoiler alert, low-key, the things that I thought were not trauma actually ended up being that. So we really dove deep into this. I also had a bunch of journaling prompts, and these are some of the questions that I asked myself. I also took mad notes during the session because honestly, I could not focus in the call unless I was also doing something like taking notes. So here's an example of some of my meeting notes. I also had some observations of feelings that I felt during the session, but sometimes I didn't have time to fill this in. So instead, what I would do is the homework that I assigned myself, because I wanted an A+ in therapy, and also I ended up getting an official diagnosis, and low-key got an A+ in that, but I'll share my diagnosis details in a bit. But my homework, I would assign action items to myself to journal and dive deeper into some things. And step 4, which is an optional step, is share my findings, because a lot of the time I have friends who also have ADHD and they share some of the same struggles I do. So I would just like tell them some of the wisdom that I've gained and some learnings from my previous mistakes, and they would just love it. Now here are some of my subtle ADHD high achiever traits that kind of made me stay in denial, because I was like, there's no way I have ADHD. I'm so organized, I did well in school, it didn't manifest in childhood, or so I thought. But then I recently got officially diagnosed because apparently the form that my therapist made me fill out every week last year was not official, so I couldn't get meds to do all of my admin work for moving countries until I got this official diagnosis, and I paid so much for it. But I basically used FREEBIE. It was really good, and I think they specialize in adult ADHD more specifically for women, and it was just such a smooth, easy process. Not sponsored by them, but kind of wish I was. So they gave me this whole thing, and I scored 9 out of 9 for inattentive and hyperactive type of ADHD, which is like 100%, so I am used to getting A+. This is a trait of mine that I've had forever, which is I had poor short-term memory specifically, and I'm still able to remember all of my meetings. I'm able to keep on top of all the important errands, and that is because I designed systems specifically for this. These are struggles that normal people don't have. So when I explain my systems to somebody, they're like, what the heck, why do you need all of that? So I have a bunch of calendar reminders, I have a bunch of alarms. I had to set up automations on my phone just so I'm able to get to my meetings on time and even remember my meetings. But I have other friends who literally will just remember they have a meeting at a specific day for some reason. They straight up don't even use a calendar. I also had a bunch of study hacks that I found out were not normal. So I would record myself teaching myself my school concepts and then go on a walk while listening to my own recordings because I could not sit still and study. Apparently, normal people would just write down notes, but I can't sit there and write down my notes. So I was walking around, and that's like an ADHD thing, but I thought it was a smart study hack. I would also come up with these elaborate, unique stories and jokes just to make sure I really remember the course concepts, and apparently normal people just use flashcards, but I have never used flashcards, it did not work for me. And I have all of these ADHD systems outlined in another video of mine, so if you're interested in deep diving into that, be sure to check that out. But in the meantime, let me show you another subtle high achiever ADHD trait. I would not pay attention to lectures, classes, any type of meetings where people are talking at me, but I still got good grades. So usually during lecture or even in work meetings, I would actually take notes or do the work in the lecture because I can't just sit there and listen. I had to be doing something. And I thought, well, that something might as well be productive. So sometimes I felt like the teachers would go through things very slowly and I would read ahead in class or do my homework for that day in class. I think usually most people like doom scroll or something, or they daydream or doodle or something. But for me, I just read ahead and studied ahead. I also made sure to attend office hours because every office hour that week was like my deadline, and I needed the in-person interaction to talk with my TA or my professor instead of being talked at. I made sure to also get my work done as soon as it was assigned, because one time I didn't do that and I completely forgot about it until the night before, and I never want to put myself through that stress again. So a lot of people are actually surprised to hear that I don't really do that much homework because I will do it while I'm still in school. While the teacher is talking, I'd be working on my worksheets and my homework, and then when I'm at home, I would rather go on Tumblr or watch my TV shows because those are higher dopamine activities that made me happier. I also procrastinated a lot, but I got things done. So this is outside of the time. For example, if I was in a work meeting and somebody requested me to do some admin work or something, I would get it done right away in that meeting, and then I would get praised for how fast I worked. So like, for example, I would have to call my friends and be like, hey, let's co-work together, or do you want to do some chores together? Because all of these boring admin work, all the homework, all the chores, things like that, I needed a body double there to keep me accountable. It was so painful to get the work done otherwise. But if I waited till after the meeting, then it takes a lot more mental effort to get things done. And if my friends weren't available for me to call, I would listen to a podcast. I recently learned that apparently people listen to podcasts and they sit there and just stare into space and listen. But like, no, that sounds like a nightmare to me. I cannot do that. I have to listen to a podcast as a way to force me to do my chores. Not only do I have this accountability or this podcast thing, I also made sure to have public deadlines. I have to like combine all of these things to make me do things. And I know this about myself, so I created these systems specifically for me. So like with the public deadline, the only reason I was able to finish cleaning my room after like 6 months is because I told my friend that he could come pick up my stuff at a specific date to donate to a shelter, because he was going around collecting donations from people. So I knew I had to get my stuff done by a specific date or else I would inconvenience my friend. And that really kicked my butt into gear. So I did get things done by that deadline. Another thing I did is I would often set deadlines and post about it publicly, so people would be looking forward to me actually doing the thing. And that's how I launched my course. I was like, hey, buy my course. It's gonna launch soon. A bunch of people bought, and now I'm like, dang, I have to make it now because these people are depending on me. And people see like, oh, she's so organized. She's doing pre-sales. She's doing like early bird launches. She's getting this done in less than 3 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, this is a system that I built. I also have a today, tomorrow, later list, and I use this to replace like all of my productivity apps because I find that I can't plan further than today and tomorrow sometimes. So I will literally just have all my tasks under today, tomorrow, or later, and the stuff that's under today, if I don't get to it that day, like it doesn't get rescheduled. I don't need to do all the admin of like rescheduling all of my tasks because tomorrow is the new today. So I just leave it under today. I have a bunch more other systems like these, so be sure to check out that other video on my ADHD systems. But another reason why I'm able to get things done is also because my brain is so motivated by dopamine or like something that feels rewarding, whether it's praise from other people that I managed to get things done in time, or it's pretty things like cute graphs and emojis and pastel colors that I use for my life tracking stuff, which again, I made a bunch of video tutorials on that as well. But I chose to get an ADHD diagnosis so I could get meds, because sometimes I feel like all these systems are not always enough for me. So while meds are not the only solution, I found that they helped me at the time because I found I needed to do all this admin for my business and for moving countries, and it was just a lot. So I thought I might as well figure out the meds situation and see what works for me to have that option available available because once I move countries, it's gonna be a lot more difficult. Basically, I learned that usually when I procrastinate, it's because of perfectionism, and that leads to a lot of overwhelm. Like I will think that everything that I do needs to be perfect, which means I'm too overwhelmed to start it, which means I procrastinate on it. And that's why this deadline thing worked so well for me, because it forced me to get things done even if it wasn't perfect. So here's an example. When I took meds, I went to the bathroom and I saw a hair in the sink. Now, my usual self without meds would be like, oh, I have to pick up the hair and clean it up. But then if I do that, I have to clean up the other parts of the sink and I have to clean the bathroom basically. And it's just too much to do. I will go back to this later. And first I need to complete my work and go back to it. Of course, because of the short-term memory thing, I forgot to go back to it. And usually I would just leave messes lying around. But this time when I saw the hair in the sink and I was on meds, I was like, oh, let me just pick that up and put it in the trash. And then I left to the bathroom. That was like so mind-blowing for me. It felt like there was one tab open in my brain instead of hundreds of tabs with music playing and stuff. You know when you exit a yoga class and you just feel so calm and focused? That is what it felt like on meds for me. I think that's why they recommend meditation to so many ADHD people. But to be honest, like I try meditating, like I don't meditate unless all of my systems are like so in line, and then I force myself to really focus on it and set that intention, which just like takes all my energy anyway. So I'm like, okay, maybe meds are for the days when I really need extra help. And another example is I know I have like intense hyperfocus. I can get work done in a week what most people would take months to do. Like the hyperfocus is so intense that I would spend hours locked in on something, whether it's a task or a hobby, and I would forget to go to the bathroom, forget to eat, forget to drink water, forget to do anything except the task. That's why I'm able to get so much done. Now, when I plan my tasks, I tend to overestimate my abilities because I'm kind of benchmarking myself on that hyper-focus mode. I'm like, okay, if I just get really locked in, I can smash out all these tasks. But of course, outside of the hyper-focus node, I am not as locked in. So I will plan all these things for myself, and then I'm not in hyper-focus mode, so they don't get done, and then I feel overwhelmed, and then I would procrastinate. So all of that is kind of how ADHD kind of contributes to procrastination for me. And once I recognized that and like saw these signs, I was able to better create systems, whether they included meds or not, that made it easier to finish my tasks. And to really get to the root of your problem and kind of figure out why it is that you're procrastinating or struggling with whatever you're struggling with, I teach my students the 5 whys analysis. This was so helpful and very simple. You basically ask yourself why 5 times. So if you're like, okay, I don't want to do this admin work right now, you will be like, why? And then usually by the time my students get to the 5th why, it's usually rooted in some deep insecurity, perfectionism, fear of never being enough, things like that. And I kind of realized that a lot of my motivations were around external validation. Like I wanted to do things to seem perfect to others, to help them, and that was not the most sustainable way to do things. So I tried to focus more on my positive self-talk, which is something that therapy has really helped me a lot with. So I share this story with a lot of my students and in a lot of my previous videos. So the story goes, there's 2 coaches, Coach A and Coach B, and there's a kid named Little Johnny playing baseball. So Little Johnny missed a hit, and Coach A is the coach that's like, dude, that was so easy. Why did you miss that? You're a failure. Why are you on the team? You suck. And now Little Johnny is so discouraged. He doesn't want to play baseball anymore, and he's not gonna try again. He feels bad about himself, so why would he continue doing what he's doing? But let's say Coach B takes another approach and is like, oh, that's okay that you missed. I understand that you might feel disappointed, but it's okay. We all make mistakes, and you can just adjust this way and try again to improve next time. Now, Little Johnny is still a bit disappointed in himself, but he's like, okay, maybe I can try again next time. Like he's not gonna completely swear off baseball. So which coach do you think is most effective? Coach A or Coach B? I think most of us can agree that Coach B is more effective because Little Johnny is actually encouraged to try again and get better at baseball, whereas with Coach A, Little Johnny might completely quit baseball altogether. But if we know logically that Coach B is more effective, why do we talk to ourselves like Coach A? So I've been trying to train my self-talk to be more positive, to be more like Coach B, and I noticed that it gave me so much more momentum to do the things that I want to do. Like for example, this morning I was kind of discouraged because somebody did not show up to an early morning meeting that I woke up for, and I didn't get enough sleep. So after the person didn't show to the meeting, I actually doom scrolled in bed for like 3 hours. And instead of being like Coach A, where I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you wasted all your time. You could have gotten so much done in those 3 hours. I consciously, intentionally talk to myself like Coach B, where I'm like, oh, it's okay. You were kind of tired. You were disappointed and overwhelmed from this meeting thing. Maybe you can still salvage the rest of your day. Like, it's completely fine. And so I did get on with the rest of my day. And I think I got a lot more done than if I talked to myself like Coach A and told myself I was a failure. Because obviously, then I'll just keep doom scrolling. I'm not gonna wanna continue being productive with my day. Like, you can't really like shame yourself into being productive sustainably long term. Like, the reason why I've been able to stay so consistent with my habits is because I truly enjoy it and I talk to myself like Coach B. So I'm reframing failure as a learning opportunity. So those are my subtle high achiever ADHD traits and most of my learnings from getting diagnosed, going to therapy, trying meds, and hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. But otherwise, I will see you in the next video.